Hi, I'm Jason Breach from the Axminster Skills Centre. We're going to play with a different cutter this afternoon. This is the Axcaliber adjustable finger joint set. This will give us basically a jointing cutter, which is going to increase the gluing up area. By increasing that gluing up area, a lot more structural strength in the board. Can look quite decorative as well, especially if you use different coloured materials. So how is this adjustable? You have the nut that comes on the top. You can unwind that. All of these discs, if I'm careful, take bits off, will come apart. So we can go down through the stage. Each of the discs has a spacer. This is the same width of each of the knives. So depending on our board thickness will determine how many knives we need. So the board that we're going to join is 30mm thick. We would actually need, the top one is always number 1. This is thicker. And then we will need 4 more discs. Okay, there are measurements that are on the web that give you the thickness of what you're working with related to the amount of discs you need on the cutter. So when we put the cutter back together, put those back on, do this back up. Need your spanners. Make sure you tighten this up. There's the lug in under there. Tighten that up. Other things you might need: cutting gauge. Something as a height gauge would be really useful. This has got to be done router table because you've got to work on the fence. Your boards have got to be nice and square, well prepared to do this. Okay, so we'll go through how to set the cutter up now. So the whole beauty about this cutter is the fact that everything is in reality adjustable depending on the board thickness. So by undoing the nut, we've got the spacers, we've got the disc, we can move all of these bits about. Everything will move up and down. So that really relates more to the board thickness. So with our board thicknesses being 11 to 16mm, we need 2 discs in the top one. Every 5mm you increase on the board thickness, you add a disc. Okay, so the boards we're going to play with in a minute are going to be 30mm thick. So we will therefore need 5 discs in total. Okay, so you can see how everything moves about. So we're basically going to take the whole cutter apart. So we want 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We want to lose 1 disc out. So we're going to take that out, move the cutter, take that one off. We can put this one back in place. We can put the spacers just back on the top. Next important thing with that, we need to make sure we tighten this all up. So we can put a spanner down the location on the shank, tighten the nut. From there, that's now ready to go into the router. So we can put that into the router, you can load that. This has got to be a 1/2 inch router for this, nice and strong. It's got to be in a table. So we can take the cutter, we can put it in our table. Okay, so having loaded the cutter into the router, we now need to set the cutter height. That's quite critical because one board is going to be face up when we machine it, the other board is going to be face down. So that height will match both boards in that one pass operation. So to do this, I use a cutting gauge just to create a centre line, to give me a guide point. That will help me immensely. I'll lay the board down, and as we've said, this is 30mm thick. I can then use a height gauge. The idea with my height gauge is that I can set it to that centre line. So we just tighten that up. Let's just check. That looks quite good. So I can use the height gauge as a guide. I could also use the piece of wood. We now need to lower the cutter. So we're coming down the table. What we're trying to aim for on the cutter disc is the middle one, which will be the middle of the board. So this is in theory halfway up our cutter. The bottom edge needs to line up with our height. So we've got to come down. That's a good start point. And I say start point because you're never going to hit this first time off. You need to do a couple of practice cuts, set up cuts to get that cut right. Then you can do the workpiece. So that's a good start point. We'll lock the height off. Going to put an insert ring in just to close the gap up on the table. Next, we can set the fence up. So we're going to pull the fence forward. We need to close the fascias down either side of the cutter. Going to lock off the fascias first. That's closed the gap down. On the bottom of the cutter there's a nice big silver bearing. Gives me maximum depth of cut. So we're right out there. So I can bridge that between the two fence boards. Check where we are, a little bit to come on this side. It is very important you get right back to that bearing, so you can see just by moving the fence how that line works nicely. A little bit high now. Okay. So we have that bit done. Check the cutter rotate freely. Just check where our board is. That doesn't look bad. Next thing, something to give us a little bit of pressure to hold the workpiece in place. So we're going to load a feather board on from the end. So we put our feather board in all the way along up to the middle. Looking at the centre point, we push it down. That's going to give us pressure over the cutter, hold it in place. Remove all those loose things off the router table. Check things are done up. Next thing, just going to check the router speed. Okay, so that's set. So we need to do our two boards. Okay, so we've got our two boards on here. We want nice straight edges. It's our join point. One board has got to go the other way up when we machine it. Okay, so we're going to have an arrow there will tell me which edges we're doing when we push them through. And like I say, you've got to do a practice cut on this to set this up. You can't expect to just push this through and get it spot on first time. Okay, so having set everything up, locked everything off, you can get your earmuffs, put those on, start the router. So extractor. So having done our test cuts, as I said, we've got the arrows that tell us which way up we're going to go. This board we turned over, so we've got to turn it back so our lines line up together. Okay, out. So our centre line ideal worked beautifully. Okay, so that centre line, which is down through here, comes a really good glide. Quite a nice quick way of doing. So why do this as a joint? We've just increased the gluing up area. So we said about our centre line, which is down here. I put the pencil just along that scribe line because it's a really good tip to use. Something with a height gauge that you can set up to that. So what we've done there is match the bottom tip of the height gauge to the middle line. Really useful. If you can find your centre line, it takes a lot of guesswork out setting the height up and down. So if we slide the board back, then used was the height gauge just to come into here. So the bottom edge of is level with the middle tip. Okay, so that bottom edge underneath is level with, that's my start point. It was really lucky with this as a cut on how this came together, nice and flush. You've seen how we turn the boards up and down. But just that simple little thing of using a height gauge, set that up, push it down, makes it quick and simple as a start point. Normally I'd expect to wind this up and down very fractionally. When you wind it up and down, you are affecting both boards because you are taking material both parts.